come along and speak. And of course, thank you all for coming as well. I'm going to go straight into my presentation, and it was interesting to listen to Daveen and the other speakers as well, because I was picking one or two things that were quite similar. I'll come back to Daveen in just a moment. I'm from Wolverhampton. Even though I've driven up from London, I'm actually now based in London. And one of the things I really want to do is to focus on my talents. How do we use our talents? When I do sermons in churches, I talk about how we slap God in the face when we are given all of these talents, yet we don't use them, we take them to the grave. And as I listened to Daveen's testimony and her presentation and her journey, very similar to mine. And one of the things I always say, there's a saying that goes, jack of all trades and masters of none. I don't buy into that. I believe we can be masters of many trades. And the speaker who just spoke, where's he on? Toby, how he was first of all in music and then he turned his hand to another career. And we are so gifted. We are so talented in so many ways. But far too often people say, well, yes, you're good at this, but taking pictures, do that as a hobby. And the irony is, the standard and ability of what you do as a photographer, if you did it as a hobby, there are people out there doing it as a profession, not as good. And so we have to be careful that we don't dumb ourselves down. And so in wanting to be, one of my loves in life is athletics. Love. So I love the pictures of Usain Bolt. Awesome. And I'm asthmatic. So I couldn't really participate in sport when I was much younger. But now, at the age of years young, I'm able to participate and compete for Great Britain. When you have a chance, you'll see my medal tally haul for last year is over here, and my 3 medals for this year just started, a couple of magazines and so forth. I'll come back to that. So, the question is, how can I use my God-given talents to make a difference? I don't just want to be known as a great sculptor, well I do actually, because that's quite nice, but that aside, I certainly want to be more than that. And so the question was, how do I fuse my athletics with my sculpting? I'm going to go through very quickly how I use my art, this particular piece, which is called a sporting transfer piece. And just to give you a quick background, as I started creating it, because I wanted to call it a sporting transfer piece, I had a couple of Hollywood celebrities, you may have photographed all of these. John Amos from Good Times, John Amos from Coming to America, Judge Judy, Robert England from Nightmare on Elm Street, Robert Knepper from Prison Break, who actually touched a piece of clay that went onto this sculpture. Because what I'm trying to do is bring together communities to say, look, we have to address knife crime, gang violence, bullying, and so forth. And so this particular piece is going to be used as a global arts campaign against bullying and violence. But let me just take you through some of the symbolisms within the sculpture. So here you have, let me just move this chair once more if I can. Thank you. So here you have the hurdler. And the hurdler is obviously jumping the hurdle. And the hurdle represents the obstacles in life that we all have to overcome. For me, it's asthma. You know what your obstacles are and challenges. But take a look at the hurdle. What does it become? The javelin. And that talks about the direction in life that we're overcoming hurdles. Many of our young people are overcoming the wrong hurdles and joining gangs and doing drugs and so forth, rather than overcoming the right kind of hurdles and doing studying and education and trying to get a PhD. I'll talk about that later. But take a look at the javelin. The reason why it's so important, because overcoming hurdles is part of what? Yes, cycle of life. Hence a cyclist. Look at the back wheel. What do you see? Take a closer look. A wheelchair athlete. And that represents the disadvantages that we all have in life. As I mentioned, for me, it's asthma. For you, you know what your disadvantages are. The key is to not let those disadvantages hold us back. But rather, we should, what? Take the plunge. Hence the diver. And in order to take the plunge, you've got to make the decision, can I or shouldn't I? I'll go back to Davina's story in terms of becoming a photographer. I'm sure at some point she might have said, should I or shouldn't I? Should I or shouldn't I? And the problem with not making decisions, and I've designed it here within the tennis player. The tennis player is back and forth, back and forth. Should I or shouldn't I? Should I or shouldn't I? The problem with not making decisions is you can end up sitting on the fence, and it's a fencer. And quite often people are afraid of making decisions because it could mean skating on thin ice. Davina talked a while ago about, how am I going to pay the bills, how am I going to pay the mortgage, and so on and so forth, because you can skate on thin ice when you make those decisions, but you have to take the plunge. Excuse me. Where am I? Here we have the the incoming female athlete with the baton, passing the baton on to the outgoing athlete. Great abs, I post for it, I wish. And the message I'm saying there is incumbent on us to pass the baton on to the next generation. The wisdom and the knowledge and understanding that we all have over the years we've accumulated, we have to pass that on to the next generation. Here I am jumping around so that you get a quick idea. Here you have the surfer, and the surfer talks about, what do you think? Yeah, having a balance in life, absolutely. But take a look at the ocean wave. Underneath the ocean wave, you see what? A shadow. Why? Because very often people live in the shadows of others. Unless, as you can see the football striker here, unless we strike out on our own. Sorry to pick on you, but in terms of striking out on your own, you had to make the decision, I'm going to be a photographer, I'm going to do what I need to do. And you struck out regardless of other people saying, what? You're going to do what? And the interesting scenario, and the reason why I'm picking on you is because about the age of 4, not picking on you, because you're a great story. My mother at the age of, I think about 12 or 13, I was on the kitchen table working on a sculpture. And she realized how serious I was. And she said to me, "Ben,